Hello and welcome to another video which is trying to get you the very top grades. We're checking out descriptive writing. I'll tell you a little bit about story writing because the advice is exactly the same. And I'm going to show you a technique that you need to try before the exams, because once you can do this, you will enter the exam filled with confidence and knowing you're going to get a really high grade. So this comes from a viewer's question. Elizabeth Frey has said, well, how far can you stray away from the picture? And she's basing it on this video that I made about unlocking the secret of descriptive writing. I will put the link up here. And the advice I gave is what I'm going to demonstrate to you. As long as the examiner can see it is inspired by the picture, you can depart quite a bit. It helps if you write a quick 1-minute plan which explains how you can move from picture to the idea that you are writing. So let's see how that might work. Here is your picture, and you're asked to write something suggested by this picture. Well, the key word here is suggested, and the question means, how far can I push my luck with writing about things that aren't really in the picture? Well, let's do a quick pit stop of the mark scheme. This is the AQA mark scheme when the examiners actually asked you to write two different stories. They didn't give you the option of a description. Now, the reason I want you to see this is you won't find the word description or narrative or story in the mark scheme. So the examiners actually give you a lot of leeway. What they're interested in is this middle column. Register is convincing and compelling, which basically means you choose the right language to fit your audience. And it's matched to the purpose. So if you want to horrify your audience, you use language that does that. If you want to entertain them, you use language that does that. It's got to match the purpose of your writing. And they would like you to have ambitious vocabulary, which works with crafting of linguistic devices. And they don't spell out what those devices are. They don't mind, but those devices have to fit the meaning you're trying to create. So what you can see here in the content of your answer is the examiner's not after anything that's in the picture. There is no reference to the picture in the exam mark scheme. Okay, so this should give you enormous confidence. Now you might think, well, fine, but what's the examiner going to do, Mr. Salles, if I have this delightful picture of this schoolgirl possibly having a drink of water here, and I start writing about aliens in space? How is the examiner going to give me credit? Won't they just think I'm cheating? I've written this story in advance at home, and I'm just bringing it into the exam. Well, it's possible, so this technique will stop the examiner thinking that, and will also allow you to write about aliens in space. So here we go. I write down my first idea straight away. Schoolgirl, walking for miles to queue for water and education, because I can see she's in a school uniform, and these also appear to be pupils in school uniform. Now, when my first idea comes, it's not very original. It's just based on what I can see in the picture, and that's fine. My job at the beginning of the exam is just to start writing, and most importantly, this is crucial, never to say no to any idea that comes into my head. Because I will never get a good idea if I keep sitting there trying to think of one. What I do is I start writing any idea, and once I've done that for 2 minutes, I suddenly find that one of these ideas I write down will be good. Let me show you what I mean by giving you my next idea. Girl lost, an orphan, looking for work. So she's in a country where there's lots of poverty and she has to find work. Maybe she's only 9 years old, but she's still got to earn a living. Okay, good idea. What's my next one? Prize winning at school, when I won the. So now I don't have to write about this girl. I can write about myself or an invented character who's won a prize at school. Fine. What idea comes next? I just write it, the first thing that comes into my head. I focus on the red cup, and this reminds me of Macbeth's dead daughter. So I'm studying Macbeth, and I realise that Lady Macbeth has had a dead child. I'm going to make it a daughter because that's inspired here. The red has reminded me of blood, And so I'm going to base my description on Macbeth's dreams, or Lady Macbeth's dreams. Interesting. I didn't know I was going to have that idea. Next, she's holding up red like a bullfighter. And so I'm going to write about a bullfight watched by an innocent girl. Okay, now that's just come from the idea of red and the girl, but it's nothing to do with what's going on in the picture. An acid attack. A girl has been told to chuck water in my face by an older child as a kind of prank, but it is in fact acid. And so my writing is going to be written from my perspective once this acid attack has happened, with my attitude to this apparently innocent child who has disfigured me for life. Hard hitting, interesting. Alien abduction. The cup is a beacon which will navigate the traction beam from the alien spacecraft. This is how they select their next specimen that they want to take up into space. Like Harry Potter, this is a port key which will help the girl to apparate. Where's she going to go? I don't know. Or to help me apparate out of this exam. I'm panicking. I hate the exam. I'm going to apparate somewhere else. And then I can write about whatever I like. So in my 2 minutes, I've written a plan which looks like that. Now, what's so important about this is it's given me lots of really good ideas. Ones that will appeal to me. Your job now is to look at which one would appeal to you. Which one would you think would make the most interesting writing for you to write? And that's a clue that it will be the most interesting writer for the examiner to read. Another way of looking at that, though, is to say, well, which idea is going to be the one that nobody else is writing about? Because that will be the most interesting idea. So these three are pretty good, but I can probably predict that someone else is going to write about those in my school. No one probably is going to write about Macbeth. However, you might not be very interested in Macbeth. This wouldn't really interest you at all. This one, I can guarantee that nobody else is going to write about. And because I've been to bullfights, I know what they're like. This would be fantastic for me, but not for you. However, this one is quite topical. It's in the news. You might know something about acid attacks, and you might have read about people who've been attacked by them. That might be something that you want to write about. Or you could be a science fiction fan and think, wow, I'm going to write a science fiction story. Awesome, I'm just going to do that. Or, much more likely, you'll be a Harry Potter fan. And you'll think, well, okay, I'm going to use the ideas in Harry Potter and I'm going to enter some sort of magical world. Now, there might be one other person in your school who's going to do that, but I doubt it. So hopefully you can see how useful it is in your choice of question. So for me, the bit that leaps out, for my personal taste, based on my life experience, is going to be this one. That's the one that I'm going to choose to write about. Well, let's see how that would look at the beginning of my writing. Now, it's important to realise my writing here could be a description or could be a story, because I want to make this useful for you, whichever you choose to do in the exam. Or, remember, whichever one the examiner gives you, because they can give you 2 stories and no description, or they can give you 2 descriptions and no story. So far that has happened once in November 2017, when you were only offered the chance to write 2 stories. Right, here we go. So this was the idea, holding up red, the bullfighter, a bullfighter watched by an innocent girl. Girls are not supposed to like the sight of blood, the splash of red suddenly gushing on a muscular flank, red on black like a pirate flag, like my cut skin shining angrily in the sun. But I do. I do. So immediately you can see how I've gone in and grabbed the examiner and said, look, this comes from the picture. I've introduced red on black, which was exactly the image of the black girl holding a red cup. This I also make super clear again with like my cut skin, so the examiner knows the black also refers not just to the bull's hide, which is black, it also refers to her own skin. Now, the reason I like that as well is it's suddenly given me an idea about victims. So I could choose to portray this bullfight and the terrible thing that happens to a bull as a metaphor for the way this black girl is treated in her society. If I choose, okay, at the beginning of this description, I don't know, I might leave racism out of it totally, and she's just black because she's black. You know, there's no racist point being made. This could be in an entirely non-racist society. You have those options open. But my point is, they just come from me in my first 3 lines, trying to use details from the picture. Now that is enough to secure me with whatever I write. So the examiner can't think, oh, this student has just come in, they know something about bullfights and they're going to write about bullfights. I'm going to mark them down. They've prepared this answer at home. They can't do that because they're looking at this and thinking, oh yeah, I see exactly how this student has used the picture as a springboard to writing. And that's all the examiners want. They don't care about the picture. In fact, the only reason they give you the picture is to help you get an idea to help you start writing. Because although the exam system is making it harder and harder for you to succeed, the examiner, the person writing the exam, still wants you to succeed. And the person marking the exam is a teacher like your own teacher who also wants you to succeed. So actually the job of the picture isn't to tie you down and make you write about what's in it. It's actually just to get you started so that you won't sit there with a blank page and get no marks. Let's go back to the to the writing again. The bull does not know it immediately, but it is already dead. Let me show you how it happens. A picador rides in, his terrified horse trained to show no fear. He circles the bull, a 1,300-pound wrecking ball of rage and muscle, and he tries to stay calm. He meditates in front of death, waiting for the moment, the exact moment, the moment just before death charges. For a second, the bull lowers his head like Thor's hammer gathering the strength of the gods, and his mighty neck muscles throb with lightning as he dreams of hurling the horse and rider into the blazing sky. Okay, I could teach you a lot about the descriptive techniques here, but I think I'll save that for another video. For now, the one thing I want you to take away from the way I'm writing here is that whenever I write, no matter what it is, I always focus on one simple technique first, and it's this. I try to start each sentence with a different word. So girl's butt, I, the, let, a, he, for. As you can see, I haven't done that totally. I've got a repetition of he and he. Now that doesn't matter because the examiner doesn't have a checklist in their mind which said, oh, I think each sentence should start in a different way. However, I know that that is what writing for purpose looks like. If you're entertaining the reader, you're making your writing slightly unpredictable, and an easy way to do that is just to start each sentence with a new word. Now, I could have doctored this and redrafted it before I showed it to you to show that I could do this all the time, but that's not the point of this tip. The point of this tip is if you have a mindset where you practice this, you will find that it happens naturally, just as it happened naturally for me. I no longer have to think about this technique because I've practiced it many times. It's like a tennis player who no longer has to think about getting topspin on their serve. They just do it because it happens automatically through practice. Now, the final thing you need to take away from this video, which I told you was for description or for a story, is about the compression of time. So if you're controlling time, you will be able to turn your piece of writing either into a description or a story. So for example, if this girl watching the bullfight watches this bull get killed, and that action takes no longer than 60 seconds, and you describe that action over the course of those 60 seconds, it will be a description. However, it will also be a description that has a beginning and a middle and an end, and so you can also write it as a story. And whichever one you choose, you're going to come back to that first paragraph and repeat it some way at the end to give it a cyclical structure. Well, more of that on a future video. I will link to it up here when I've actually made it, so you can see how to turn your writing either into a descriptive piece or a story with the same bit of writing. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more amazing tips to get you the very top grades. See you soon.